That night in Fort Worth, Texas, the lights weren't bright like a major campaign rally, but they were just enough to spotlight a young congresswoman walking confidently to the microphone. Jasmine Crockett, a rising star in the Democratic Party, known for her sharp tongue and fiery presence, stood before a modest crowd at Human Rights Campaign fundraiser. Her speech was already intense, her tone cutting. But then came three words that would change everything. Governor Hot Wheels, she smirked, wants to roll over what little freedom we have left. The room went quiet, then scattered, nervous chuckles filled the air. A few people clapped, unsure. But by the time the 20-second clip made it to Twitter that night, the awkward laughter had turned into nationwide outrage. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who has used a wheelchair since an accident decades ago, is a controversial figure, especially among progressives. But this wasn't about policy anymore. It wasn't about LGBTQ rights or partisan debate. It was about mocking a man's disability. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Hashtags exploded. People from across the political spectrum condemned the comment. Conservative talk shows, liberal opinion pieces, disability advocates, everyone had something to say. On The View, usually friendly territory for Crockett, co-host Ana Navarro shook her head. I don't care who it's about. Mocking someone's disability is never okay. Meanwhile, in Dallas, a conservative Iraq War veteran named Bruce Halterman, who lost both legs in combat, recorded a video from his wheelchair. His voice was calm but raw. We can disagree on policy, he said, but when you attack someone's body, you're just being cruel. His video went viral. Over 3 million views in a single day. Still, Jasmine Crockett didn't apologize. When she finally did respond, during a local radio interview, it wasn't an apology at all. I'm not making fun of anyone's wheelchair, she insisted. I'm talking about how he bulldozes our rights. Y'all are too sensitive. For words. Y'all are too sensitive. They would echo for days. In Washington, the fallout was growing. Democratic allies were silent. Local officials dodged questions. Donors started calling Crockett's campaign with concern. Behind the scenes, staffers exchanged worried glances. Something was unraveling. And far from the spotlight, in a quiet studio in Fairfax, Virginia, Kash Patel was watching. Not to react, not to tweet, but to listen and to prepare. 4 days had passed since the now infamous Hot Wheels comment. Most politicians, under such heat, might step back, reflect, and issue a heartfelt apology. But Jasmine Crockett chose a different path. She fought back. In a follow-up radio interview, instead of remorse, she offered defiance. I'm not mocking anyone in a wheelchair, she repeated. I'm talking about what he's doing to this state. If people are offended, maybe they're just too sensitive. There was no hesitation, no nuance, just the same smirk, the same shrug. And outside her circle, people were no longer laughing or defending her. Inside her D.C. office, the mood was tense. Phones rang nonstop. Press requests piled up. But the atmosphere was different now, quieter, dimmer. Her longtime press aide, Mia Granger, sat at her desk, pale and drained. She looked up at Leon, the campaign speechwriter, and whispered, "She doesn't get it. She thinks this is just another culture war battle. But this time, it's different." Leon nodded, slowly. This one hit a nerve. Back in Fairfax, Virginia, Kash Patel wasn't tweeting. He wasn't doing press. He was listening, watching, and writing. Patel had built his career on strategy. A former federal prosecutor with experience in intelligence, he knew when to act and when to wait. While the media frenzy grew louder, Patel remained still. To him, Crockett's Hot Wheels line wasn't a one-off mistake. It was a pattern. Reckless words, no accountability, and a growing hunger for viral attention over real public service. He began to assemble the case. Quietly, methodically. One by one, he pulled old footage. Crockett joking on a podcast about hitting Ted Cruz really hard. A social media post calling to take down Elon Musk. A tense exchange during a school board meeting where she accused a parent of being on the payroll of hate simply for asking about school budget transparency. None of it was explosive on its own, but together, it painted a picture. Patel wasn't interested in outrage. He was building something bigger. Context. And he was doing it while Crockett continued to light more fires. On Friday night, she appeared on a late-night comedy panel hosted by Tyrell Jennings. The crowd was loose, the jokes fast, the vibe casual, until Tyrell turned serious. "Real talk, Congresswoman," he said, leaning forward. "Do you regret calling the governor Hot Wheels?" Some in the disabled community didn't take that well. Crockett smiled. If they knew what he was doing to this state, they'd call him worse. Silence. Even Tyrell blinked. The audience fidgeted. "That's your answer?" he asked. She didn't flinch. "I don't sugarcoat." The clip exploded online by morning. People weren't just reacting to what she said, but how she said it. Cold, proud, detached. What might have been a misstep now felt like a character flaw. A refusal to reflect. A belief that being loud was the same as being right. In her campaign office, that cold front was spreading. Donors were backing away. Media allies were losing enthusiasm. Even Democratic colleagues were distancing themselves with vague statements about measured leadership. And yet, Crockett held her ground. Inside her inner circle, frustration simmered. Lane, her campaign manager, stressed out and exhausted, said what many were thinking. "We have to address this head on, not by mocking Patel, not by clapping back online. We need to show people she understands why they're upset." But Crockett remained unmoved. "He's trying to erase me with facts and fake concern," she said. "I'm not giving him that win." Lane exhaled slowly. "It's not about him anymore. It's about how you're coming across. People aren't just mad because you said it. They're mad because you don't seem to care that you said it." Silence. And then Crockett turned to her laptop. "Let them be mad." That single line, meant to project strength, was the moment her staff realized something deeper. She wasn't backing down. Not because she was principled, but because she was proud. And pride, in politics, is a dangerous hill to die on. Tuesday morning, Virginia. Quiet. No dramatic music. No flashing graphics. No fire emojis or angry headlines. Just a plain room. A wooden chair. A man sitting calmly with a notepad on the table in front of him. His voice, steady and clear, broke the silence. "Let's talk about Representative Jasmine Crockett." That was how Kash Patel began his now famous 19-minute video. Titled "Simply Enough is Enough," the clip was unlike anything else in the week's political storm. No yelling, no insults, no performance, just facts and tone, and it hit like a bomb. Within 3 hours, the video had over 400,000 views. By nightfall, it had passed 2.1 million, but more than the numbers, it was the way Patel spoke that cut through the noise. He sat like a man in a courtroom, presenting his evidence to the jury, the American public. First came the Hot Wheels clip, then the joke about hitting Ted Cruz, then the Elon Musk rant, then a lesser-known moment, Crockett lashing out at a concerned parent during a school board hearing, accusing them of being on the payroll of hate. Patel didn't over-edit the clips. He let them play, raw, uncut. Then, with precision, he asked, "Does this sound like a public servant? Or someone intoxicated by the spotlight?" His tone never rose. His expression never shifted into anger. Instead, he broke things down piece by piece, offering not just critique, but context. He explained the difference between passion and recklessness, between calling out injustice and dismissing accountability. He made the case that leadership requires not just boldness, but wisdom. Then, in one of the video's most powerful moments, he spoke directly to the veteran community. "You know what courage looks like. You've seen it up close. And I think we'd all agree, mocking a man's wheelchair because you don't like his policies? That's not courage. That's cowardice, hiding behind a microphone." That line landed like a thunderclap. Veteran groups across the country began sharing the video. Even those who didn't usually agree with Patel found themselves nodding. Because it didn't feel like an attack, it felt like a reckoning. In Amarillo, Texas, retired teacher Marla Stone, a longtime supporter of Crockett, watched the video on her phone while sitting alone in a cafe. By the end, her eyes had welled up. "I thought she was sharp," she whispered, "but I didn't think she was mean." And then came Patel's closing. No dramatic music, no call for resignation, no shots fired, just a final sentence. "We need better from all sides. We need leaders not performers. It was simple, unpolished, but it stuck. The kind of line that echoed in people's heads long after the video ended. By the next morning, headlines lit up. Kash Patel holds mirror to Crockett's record, and it's damning. No attacks, just receipts. Patel's video crosses party lines. Even Democrats say off the record, "We've had concerns for a while." And through it all, Patel remained silent. No interviews, no victory lap. His restraint made his message louder. In contrast, Crockett kept spiraling. She kept posting, kept tweeting, kept retweeting memes mocking Abbott. Her refusal to pivot, her refusal to show even an ounce of empathy, was no longer seen as strength. It was seen as ego. Behind closed doors in Washington, even her closest allies were worried. Veteran political strategist Gerald Spence flew in from Austin for an emergency meeting with her core team. "You don't understand," he said bluntly. "This isn't about the comment anymore. It's about the pride." He was right. Crockett wasn't just losing the argument. She was losing the room. Inside her team, morale dropped. Staffers spoke less, looked away when she entered. The once lively campaign office had turned into a tense, silent space. And out in the world, Patel's video continued to spread, not with noise, but with weight. It was clear now. The most powerful voice in this storm wasn't the loudest. It was the one that didn't need to yell. In politics, people don't always fall because they said the wrong thing. Sometimes, they fall because they refuse to stop talking. In the days after Kash Patel's "Enough is Enough" video, he didn't say a word. No press tour, no Twitter thread, no victory lap. He just let the video speak for itself. And it did. It echoed across morning shows, political podcasts, town halls, and op-eds. Not because it was loud, but because it was measured, and because Patel had tapped into something deeper than scandal. He'd struck a nerve about character. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett kept moving forward, like nothing had changed. But everything had. In her home state of Texas, a local newspaper published a front-page editorial titled "The Arrogance of Power: Why Words Still Matter." A fellow Democratic lawmaker, when asked about Crockett's comments, offered only a vague answer about choosing words wisely in leadership. Not a defense, not an attack, just distance. And for Crockett, that silence from allies was more damning than any critique from across the aisle. Inside her campaign office, tension turned to exhaustion. Donors began backing away. Emails from supporters slowed. One longtime contributor from Plano openly pulled out, saying, "I can't defend what she said, not because it was a mistake, but because she doesn't care that it was." Behind closed doors, her inner circle met in crisis mode. Lane, her campaign manager, laid out charts showing the steady dip in approval ratings and social media sentiment. Mia, her once loyal press director, sat quietly, staring at the floor. Then Gerald Spence, the veteran strategist flown in from Austin, broke the silence. "We have a real problem, and it's not just the comment. It's her pride. She won't let it go." Crockett leaned back in her chair. "So you want me to apologize for telling the truth?" she asked. Gerald didn't flinch. "No, I'm saying there's a difference between speaking truth and burning the whole room down while you do it." A younger staffer, Roxy, tried to chime in, but people love her for being bold. Mia cut in flatly. "They did. Now they're just tired. Even the ones who love the fire are wondering if that's all there is." Leon, the speechwriter, slid a folder across the table. "Coverage from just the last 36 hours, he said. "Patel's video is at 4 million views and growing." Crockett opened the folder and scanned the headlines. Jasmine Crockett's joke isn't funny anymore. Patel's case is surgical, and she's bleeding support. From fighter to flammable. What happened to Jasmine Crockett? She slammed the folder shut. "I'm not groveling to that man." Lane spoke gently. "No one's asking you to grovel. Just be real. Speak from the heart. Not a tweet. Not a clapback. Just honesty." Crockett looked around the room. "You all think I went too far?" No one answered immediately. Then Mia, voice low but sharp, said, "I think you forgot that words don't always make you powerful. Sometimes they just make you loud." The sting in her voice cut deep. Crockett didn't respond. She stood, walked out of the room, and shut the door behind her. Outside, staffers paused. No one said a word. And for the first time, Crockett's team felt something heavier than pressure. Doubt. Later that week, Crockett took the stage at Southern Methodist University for a town hall. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters held pens at the ready. Supporters waited to see if this would be her moment to reflect. The moderator asked, "Do you regret the Hot Wheels comment?" Crockett paused. "I regret," she said slowly, "that people are more outraged by words than they are by policies that ruin lives." A few clapped hesitantly, but the room fell still again. "So, just to clarify," the moderator pressed, "that's not an apology?" Crockett stood firm. "I don't apologize for calling out oppression, even if it makes people uncomfortable." And just like that, another clip went viral, but not in her favor. Even some progressive voices began turning. Activists tweeted, "This isn't bold. This is blind." Still, Patel said nothing. And somehow, his silence made her noise sound even louder and emptier. Then came the final blow from an unexpected place. Elijah Brennan, a former campaign staffer who had helped Crockett early in her career, posted a 6-minute video from his backyard. No studio, no notes, just a man who once believed. "I thought she was the one who spoke truth when others stayed quiet," he said. "But now, it feels like it stopped being about the truth and started being about her." That video, like Patel's, went viral. Not because it was angry, but because it was honest. By the end of the week, Crockett's poll numbers dropped by 10 points. Talk of a primary challenger began swirling. Her once rising national profile was dimming. Not because she was silenced, but because she refused to listen. In an op-ed, a voter from Waco said it best. Jasmine could have owned her words. Instead, she let them own her. There's a lesson here, one that has nothing to do with partisanship and everything to do with character. Leaders aren't perfect, but the good ones know when to pause, when to reflect, when to say, "I got that one wrong." And as for Patel, he didn't yell. He didn't brag. He didn't gloat. He told the truth and let people decide what mattered more, the volume of a voice or the weight of conscience.